Okay, so far I had all these misconceptions about, right. Well, America, the training is not necessarily better, and well, it was, they work too hard and all only care about money. But it seems like a lot of that was just sort of misconceptions. At the moment, the main thing I feel is like the sense of like, oh my god, this is so exciting because it would be such an adventure to go to America. Just
Mm,
just because it's something new and interesting and weird. Like,
yeah.
how's that for you? Like, uprooting your life in the UK and just moving to America.
So it was, I know people think it's always about money and all this kind of stuff, but I can honestly say, hand on heart, the most compelling reason for me to want to make this entire move and try and do a career in the US was because I wanted to try something new. More than anything else, it was the desire to have that excitement and to have that sense of adventure was a massive driving force for me. And I always say I've been blessed, and my wife is always in a very similar position. We're very blessed, and our parents are actually both doctors as well. And they came here to England, they raised us kids, they got themselves well established in their consultant jobs here in England. They put their kids into grammar schools, and then their kids went off and did their exams and got into medical school at good institutions, and then they became doctors. And I'd always just sit there thinking to myself, what is the best case, I can have here in England? If I imagine my life 20, 30 years from now, what would that look like? And I just couldn't help but thinking it would just look like what my parents had done. Like,
You
I
live in
would,
a nice sort of three-bedroom house in the suburbs, and you'd have some kids,
yeah,
and they'd go to grammar school, end up in medical school probably.
exactly. And the kids are cheaper. I'd be sitting there telling them to study for the 11 plus exam and, trying
Yeah.
to get into King Edward's, all these kind of things. And for me, it was just thinking like, I've seen this movie before. I was like, I know how this goes. I know every part of this. Um, and there was a little part of me that was just like, it just feels stale. It just feels like I need to try something new. I need to have a different chapter in my life that doesn't look like what I've experienced, but just now as the parent in the equation. So that was why I just really thought, I wonder what life in America is like. And I mean, I'm sure I got so heavily influenced by Hollywood, all these movies and TV shows and things I watch. I did watch every season of Gossip Girl, so I think that's probably
Of
ingrained in my mind.
course.
It's no coincidence I now live on the Upper East Side. It's clearly just brainwashed me. But I've always had this image of like, I wonder how exciting a life would be like in America, and just all these cultural references that you see play out. And I'm like, oh, imagine if instead in like 15, 20 years' time, I was trying to like help my kid get into an Ivy League and go to like Harvard or Yale, or just have a completely different experience to what I had. How much more fun would that be for me, um, to see what that part of life would look like? So that was kind of always a notion in my head. And then when I went out on my elective and I actually experienced it, for the first couple of days, I thought New York was like disgusting and it's so dirty and oh my goodness. And I wasn't sure if I liked
Mm.
it. By the end of the month, I was just completely in love with the city after just experiencing what like life is like there, the people, the energy, the activity. I just remember leaving, and as I was leaving, even I was looking back like in the taxi to get to the airport, and I was like, I have unfinished business here. Like I can't just have this as the end. I can't just now go back.
Mm.
Like I just know for a fact I'm going to be coming back here, and I was so confident actually at that point, probably delusionally so. I left some of my clothes with a friend who lived in New York because I was like, oh, I'm going to be back, so just I'm gonna leave these here, and I'm gonna be back pretty soon because I just know that I want to come back
Yeah.
and work and live in New York. Um, and then since then, I just haven't looked back. Like this is gonna sound like mundane, but like little stuff like where you go grocery shopping. As in like you go to like new places, like you go to Dwayne Reed instead of like a Tesco, and
Mm.
you see like the snacks they have are different. Like they have like Jolly Ranchers, and you've never seen those before. And they have like just also like what are kettle corn and all these like different like junk foods that you've just never experienced or you've seen on TV before. So just like even the mundane tasks like going grocery shopping, you find you're discovering new things and it keeps your life like
Mm.
fresh and exciting because you're like, oh, I wonder what this is like. I've never seen this before. When it comes to like the hospital itself, obviously the work is really exciting and different. The activities you can do, like they have real seasons in New York. So we have like actual spring, summer, like fall, we call it autumn there, and winter. You actually experience like New Year's in New York,
Mm.
and you're seeing Christmas in New York, and the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and even just Thanksgiving as a celebration is like so new to us, but now we're like fully immersed in it.
Yeah.
Like we're throwing our own friendsgiving parties and having like pumpkin themes everywhere, and my wife's going crazy buying decorations for our houses, spending too much money. But yeah, just that kind of stuff just makes your life so much more fresh, right? You make a new group of friends. You don't have to lose your old group of friends. Like I'm still just as in touch with all of my friends from England, just electronically. And then you make this whole new bracket of friends, like through work and through communities there. So it just adds like so much variety to your life. And like when I think back the last 3 years we've been there, we've been to like the US Open semifinals, and we go to like, you know, all these like parades and all these different like just New York specific activities that, you know, you just would never have experienced. We'd never have had any of these life experiences if we had just stayed in our routine in England. And that's like my biggest like kind of pride in doing this, is just like my biggest like vindication, is that now I can say whatever else happens, like, do you remember that time we lived in New York, like when we were younger, that was amazing, right? Yeah. And I'll always have that, and I just wouldn't have had it if I hadn't tried.
So recently, like, because you know we're filming this on the 2nd of January, so it's New Year, and I've been thinking, you know, everyone does these, like everyone that I follow and like on Twitter does these like end of year reviews where you kind of think about your life, and you kind of think about, okay, you know, what's my life going to look like in 5-10 years time? You know, what's it going to look like if money and social obligations were not a factor? You know, what would it look like? Or what would it look like then? And I actually did this activity. You know, I took the time of like last week to write out this kind of vision of what I imagine my life would look like 5 years from now when I'm 30.
Yeah.
In these different circumstances. So like question number 1 was, you know, if you just go on your current path. Question number 2 was if you took a completely different path. Question number 3, if you could do whatever the hell you wanted to. And what I found was that they were all very similar. And, you know, I said that, okay, I'm 30. At this point, I'm in a training pathway, probably in anesthetics, because I was interested in that. You know, I've got this flat in Cambridge. I'm living with someone, maybe married at this point, maybe thinking about kids. And I'm, you know, doing some supervisions on the side and continuing to make YouTube videos. Just kind of living in Cambridge and supervising students in the evenings. And I kind of read that and thought, is that it? Like, it just feels so pedestrian almost. And I don't know, like there wasn't anything about that brought me a sense of excitement. It was more a sense of, oh, I guess this would kind of be nice.
Yeah.
And so then I was thinking, oh crap, you know.
It's like an existential moment.
Yeah, exactly. I'm 25, like I could literally do whatever the hell I want because I'm taking time out medicine in F3, and like, and I just didn't have any idea what I wanted to do other than just, well, I guess become a part-time anaesthetist and do some supervising.
Yeah.
So I'm really turned on to this idea of like just, you know, uprooting and having an adventure, because at the very least it's going to be a good life experience, and you get to learn medicine along the way. You get to do some exams, seems quite fun. Pay a bit of money, but hey, you make money on YouTube. So
I'll cover that.
I'll cover that. And you make new friends and just unlock this whole network, and it just seems so great, right? Like
and that's also just the variety of it. Like just the memories. Like I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like all these different like personal and professional memories, like different opportunities you get. Like obviously it depends on which city you're in, but I mean like in New York, like you just like stumble across opportunities. Like you'll be talking to someone, you'll end up going to like a hackathon, like some kind of event that's happening, and then based on that you'll meet someone else, and then you're working together on like a medical technology startup, just based on, because you know you've had this network of like, and there's this like dynamism and energy that just exists there. And I definitely sound like I've like drunk the Kool-Aid, and I'm sort of like, you know, that Alicia Keys
like
song.
A New York YouTuber, Kool-Aid drinking.
Exactly.
Like, oh my god, I just love the city.
It's like Empire State of Mind. He can make it anywhere.
Yeah.
My wife and I sang that for about 3 months after we moved. Like that was literally just non-stop what we sang.
Have you actually drank Kool-Aid?
I haven't, but I should, you know. Man, I think about it.
I want to drink Kool-Aid, just so I can say I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Yeah. So I know it sounds cliche, but just genuinely, there's something just intangible about it where like it's not something which you can pick up. I've visited New York before. I've been there for like 1 or 2 days before on a family trip, or 3 or 4 days, and it was just like, oh cool, it's a big city, just like other big cities, Toronto, Paris, etc. But just when you live there and it's the community, I just can't express it. Like there's just something about that city that it just kind of like drives your ambition, and people are just always have like such a let's do it attitude, that like you just find like life throws like amazing opportunities at you just being in a place like that. And I love London, don't get me wrong. I lived in London for like, you know, 6-7 years throughout university and everything. And it is cleaner than New York. I'll give it that. It's cleaner. It has less like mice and rats and things like that. Less bin bags piled up for some reason, inexplicably. But there's like this charm, and there's this like just energy in New York that like you just have to experience to understand. And my brother actually recently moved to New York for a separate reason, like 6 months ago. He's a journalist and he's working out there as well. And he said the same thing. When he first came out, he was like, why is it so filthy here?
Why is it so grimy? Like?
And I was just like, let's talk in like a month and you can tell me what you think. A month that he's in love with the place. Like, he just can't stop talking about it. So that's what I'll say, is just like, it's not just that New York is the only place worth going to. I'm just saying that like, to think that I would have lost that dimension of my life had I just stayed in my comfort zone, it doesn't matter thinking about it. Like, it would have just been such a big regret if at the age of like 40, 50, I was looking back on my life. I would have just been like, why didn't I at least
Yeah.
try something new? You know, at some point when I was younger and I didn't have a bunch of kids and I wasn't, you know, like having to make really sensible decisions. Not to say this isn't a sensible decision. I think it's a logical decision as well. But
Yeah,
I'm
it
just
makes a
saying,
lot of sense. Yeah.
even if it's not, like you just feel that little flame light up inside you, where you're like, could I do that? Like that'd be pretty fun, right? It'd be pretty fun. So that's what I decided to do, and like, you know, for me it worked out. But I have my best friend actually here in England. He's the guy I mentioned earlier who's like born in Slough, will die in Slough happily. Like he is literally, it's not a burden to him. He genuinely loves his comfort zone. He loves his stability. He loves his routine. And there is no right and wrong in this. I'm not trying to say that the only way to do it is try and chase adventure and, you know, go to another country. He's totally content in the position he's in. And I really admire that because it must be really peaceful. Like, you know, he had his journey mapped out from early on and he's coasting along on that journey, having a wonderful time. So that is also equally perfect for him. Just for me, I couldn't do that. So I think it depends on your own personality.
Nice. All right. So adventure, here we come.
It's a wrap.